This screencast is going to be about character design and the various techniques and rules you can apply to it to make your characters more unique and interesting. First, I'll be looking at basic character design and how important shapes and silhouettes can be to designing a character. Then I'll look at how to make your characters stand out and be unique. And then I'll move on to actually seeing what makes a character attractive or ugly and other general things that are important to consider when designing a character. First, we'll start by looking at shape and silhouette. Beeman says one of the most important things to consider when first making a character is its silhouette value, which basically means is your character easily recognisable, even when it's just a silhouette. Beeman advises that the best silhouettes are made out of lots of recognisable shapes. However, the shapes used to create and inspire characters should also be carefully thought out, as we have developed certain associations with certain shapes. For instance, the three most basic shapes: circles, squares and triangles. Circular characters are often cute or non-threatening, square characters are steadfast and strong, and triangles are usually intelligent, or, especially inverted triangles, imply speed. All of the examples I have used here are very literal body shapes, but quite often it is more subtle, with characters being inspired by specific shapes but not being so clearly made up of them. Rise of the Guardians is a very recent film and is a good example of this, and the making of documentary explains how the Easter Bunny is a triangle, Santa is a square, Sandman is inspired by a circle, and the Tooth Fairy and Jack are inspired by diamond shapes. So using shapes in this way makes characters instantly recognisable, even from a distance, and it helps to make them more memorable. Now on to looking at how to make unique characters. So you want to make a whole plethora of characters, but you want to make each one unique. Well, one of the ways to achieve this is to vary with the proportions a little. Say you want to make geek and jock characters. Now these two stereotypes are very different, and the details may make them appear so here, but get far enough away and they look pretty similar. So try beefing up the jock's torso and shrink his head down, whilst thinning the geek's body and making his head bigger. Not only are they now vastly different from one another, but they are much more visually interesting, and can be read easily even from a distance, since they have a much better silhouette value. Even if you want to go for a more realistic style with similar body types as silhouettes, there are still ways to make your characters different from one another, and more memorable. One very simple and cost-effective way is just to use different colours. Something which is used a lot in the early days of animation is still used widely today with background characters or hordes of enemies. It is often called palette swapping. But it's a bit of a boring way to tell main characters apart. It isn't really good enough for today's standards. Another more interesting way is to use different body language, movement and props to further emphasise your characters' personalities. For example, the geek may be more introverted and a bit absent-minded, so his hair and clothes be a bit messy and he'd walk hunched over with small steps, whereas the jock would be more confident and care more about his appearance. So he would be well kempt and walk with long strides with his chest puffed out, although it is also fun to mix up the stereotypes. Whilst doing all of this, you should keep in mind the universal design principle. Basically, this idea is that all the characters you create for a project should look like they're from the same universe, and so they should have an overarching style. Timmy Turner would look downright weird in the Simpsons universe, and vice versa, although breaking this principle can still be used to good effect, if it has a purpose, such as comedic effect or to emphasise plot. Now, of all these ways to make unique characters, it's quite disappointing how samey a lot of the female characters are, especially in the gaming medium. It seems to be a very easy trap for a character designer to fall into, to just design a female character to look attractive and not really have any personality in her design, weakening the character as a whole. So designers should take special care to make sure their female characters are unique and interesting. But I digress. Let's move on to looking at how to make characters attractive or ugly. Everyone wants their characters to be appealing, but that doesn't necessarily mean they need to be attractive, it just means they need to be interesting to look at. So even intentionally ugly characters have to be thoughtfully designed. The first place to mix things up is the face. Human faces generally have a certain order: eyes, nose and mouth, making an inverse triangle shape. We find this arrangement pleasing, and so if you want to make an attractive character, this is the way to go. However, if you want to mix this arrangement up a bit, we instantly get an uglier or otherworldly face, and you can further this distortion by making it unsymmetrical. Another point to keep in mind is that we generally find curves and round edges more appealing. The S-curve is even known as the line of beauty. William Hogarth came up with the term in 1753, with the idea behind it that curves symbolise life and excite the viewer, whereas straight lines or points signify death or inanimate objects. So those are some basic points on how to make an appealing character. However, there are many other important things you can also consider when designing a character. For starters, you should keep thinking about how your character will fit into the production as a whole. Short arms may look great, but it's no good if your characters can't hug when needed to. And what is your character's role in the production? You may have designed the most appealing, memorable character ever, but it's no good if it's just meant to be a background character and outshines the main cast. Who's your target audience? A visually disturbing Silent Hill-esque creation may be awesome, but it's not really suitable for kids. It's also important to consider how the scale of your characters compare to each other in their world tells a lot about what difficulties they might face. So it's a good idea to design characters and props next to each other. And having juxtaposing characters can really help emphasise certain traits, such as a really big character always carrying quite a small one on his shoulder. Last but not least, make sure you inject some flaws into your character, either appearance or personality, or both. Perfect, all-powerful characters may seem awesome at first, but they get boring very fast. Flaws make a character more human, more relatable, and therefore more likeable. Well, that's my screencast on character design. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.